Welcome back to the Chris Hand Show. After a much-needed Thanksgiving break, Mac is producing. So Chiefs didn't play last night.
We won. Happy holidays.
All right. Who did you guys play yesterday?
It was the Las Vegas Raiders. It was easy.
All right, perfect. Ken's in the newsroom. You guys have a good Thanksgiving?
That was great, man. Family, friends, great food.
I love it.
And football was awesome.
I'll tell you what, man. I don't know how my wife does it. She probably moved 100 miles per hour the entire time. She's just a Thanksgiving beast. She's just,
making the food, getting the kids rounded up and organized.
My gosh, doing crafts with the kids. She's doing painting ornaments with the kids.
Oh, that's
Then you turn around and she's doing dishes. You turn around, she's cooking more food. She's bringing out snacks. Shout out to my wife and all the amazing wives out there who handled Thanksgiving for husbands like me. I appreciate y'all. Seriously. It was a great break. Joe Biden was he was out and about. He was in Nantucket. It's amazing. It's just the difference between the tale of two presidents. Donald Trump and Joe Biden were out in public over the weekend. Donald Trump goes to the South Carolina college football game, and the people are very happy. They start screaming. They love him. They love the guy. And Nikki Haley's alma mater, by the way. And then on the other side of that equation, on the other side of this coin, Joe Biden goes out in Nantucket, of all places. Not in Nantucket. He's shouted out. He can't go shopping. Unbelievable stuff. All the Karens in Nantucket. Craziness. The tale of two presidents. We did get word that hostages are being released. This is good news. And I think that, there should be some credit given to maybe not Joe Biden, but the American government in a way, because we are, right in the middle of all these negotiations. They're saying now that this was updated last night at 11:44 p.m. So there could be new updates, but 17 hostages were released late last night. 14 Israelis and the first American. That was their third hostage exchange under their 4-day truce that the United States said it would hope to be extended. Israel released 39 Palestinian prisoners. More hostages were handed over directly to Israel, waving to a cheering crowd as they arrived at an Air Force base. Others left through Egypt. Israel's army said once airlifted to a hospital, and the director of the medical center, 84, one was in life-threatening condition as a result of an extended period of time where an elderly woman was not taken care of as needed. So there are some people being treated. The youngest hostage released was Abigail Edan, a 4-year-old and dual Israeli-American citizen whose parents were killed in the Hamas attack that started the war on October 7th. Joe Biden said, what she endured was unthinkable. That's the truth. It really is unthinkable what a 4-year-old has to go through without their mom and dad. That's heartbreaking, but I'm glad that she's home. In all, 9 children ages 17 and younger were on the list, according to Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office. 3 more Thai nationals were released. Separately, Hamas said it released a Russian hostage in response to the efforts of Russian President Vladimir Putin. The 3 Thai nationals were undergoing health checks at a medical center in Israel. There's all sorts of stuff coming out about these hostages, and a 4th exchange is expected today, the last day of the ceasefire, during which 50 hostages and 150 Palestinian prisoners are to be freed, most women and minors. I don't like giving up all the prisoners, but I do like getting the hostages home. I think that's important, and I think you give credit where credit's due. But that 4-year-old girl, man, that one hit me. I have a 4-year-old. And to think about a 4-year-old being a hostage for as long as she was, crazy. Crazy. Biden noted that she hopes she's getting the care and love and the supportive services she needs. And he said that he's hopeful that this is not the end of the temporary truce. He also said that she's been through terrible trauma and what she had to endure was unthinkable. And he's absolutely right. I mean, losing your parents and then being a hostage since October 7th. Wild. Wild. I feel for that girl. The girl now is currently in Israel, according to Biden, who said he'll be speaking with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to work on bringing more hostages home. Alongside that young girl was another Israeli American. 14 Israeli hostages were released in that grouping with the 4-year-old girl. But she's free now. She's in Israel, and this is good news. Good news. Let's go to first caller of the day, Lindsay in Pleasant Shade. Lindsay, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Lindsay?
Well, golly, Chris, you kind of ruined my joking spirit there.
Oh, jeez. Well, I'm sorry. we can turn back to jokes if you would like.
We can chew gum and walk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I missed you guys. So your wife did all this stuff. Did you at least cook the turkey?
I sure did. I cooked the turkey. I cooked the
stuffing. That's the man job.
Yeah, I do the man stuff.
Okay.
I took the trash out a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Well, I just called to stir up trouble because playing solitary by myself is just not the same without you boys.
Oh, man. Well, we missed you too, Lindsay, and we're glad to be back.
Well, get your Eagles button ready because I'm going to tell Mac to stand up for himself. I have already called him cougar bait. I could eat him with a spoon. Did I say that over the air?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Okay, so you get to tease him for being a football guru and a fan of the Raiders and the Eagles.
Yeah.
And he gets to call you a, wishy-washy, acorn-headed Canadian cheapo comic.
All right, perfect. I think that's fair.
And God helped a whole lot of you when I learned how to text from down here, and I happen to know what's in my stocking, and it's a cell phone.
Oh.
So this is why Boss Man Dandis doesn't take phone calls.
He knows better. He sees Lindsay in Pleasant Shade pop up. He's like, oh, gosh, here we go.
I'm going to roast him next. He's in for it.
I love it. Thanks for the call, Lindsay.
She's the best.
Did you hear her say that she could eat you up with a spoon?
Yes, I did hear that.
All right. You're just
I was just going to breeze by that part.
All right, perfect. I wanted to make sure that you knew.
You wanted to emphasize that portion of the conversation. Yeah.
I felt like it was in need of emphasis. I didn't want the listening audience to miss that.
It's better than being stuck with a fork.
It's true.
You're right. I'll take that any day.
Nailed it.
That's great.
Lindsay, she's hilarious.
She really is.
Also, over the weekend, Joe Biden was at the Nantucket Christmas tree lighting. Everybody loves the Nantucket Christmas tree lighting.
Oh, yeah.
And he was heckled by protesters at a Christmas tree lighting. I think, you know what's funny to me, though? Joe Biden can't even draw a crowd when it's protesters. There was only like 20 of them. Like, even when they're protesting him, he can't draw a crowd.
They don't hate him enough. We just all don't care.
They're like, you know what? Let's go protest somewhere where people are actually making decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Nantucket Christmas tree lighting that President Joe Biden was attending Friday evening was interrupted by Free Palestine protesters. Hilarious. I know I don't really agree with the Free Palestine protesters, but hilarious. You just hijacked a Christmas tree lighting. I mean, Joe's there with Jill. Their children and grandchildren are all there for the Nantucket Christmas tree lighting, except for the new one. I don't think the new one was there. She was not invited. But after the Christmas tree countdown happens and they light off the tree, everybody's happy. They all of a sudden people start chanting, Biden, Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide.
Woo. Wow.
The hot take.
Whoa.
It's a hot take. A man went up to the microphone to remind them this is a community tree light. Folks, please, we're just lighting a Christmas tree. And he also noted that while he respected their right to the First Amendment, he encouraged them to stop. He did what Joe Biden said. He's like, listen, we like that you're exercising your First Amendment right, but don't.
Don't.
They didn't listen to him. They didn't listen to the nice man who said, please, can we just light the Christmas tree? They resisted, but their message was drowned out by the crowds cheering and loud Christmas music playing. So Christmas music drowning out Free Palestine protesters. If you had that one on your bingo card for 2023, you can check it off.
Just slowly tune up Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, we're going to need to get louder, guys. It's like a kid's choir.
We have another speaker.
People are screaming about Palestinian genocide. The kids are like, why don't they want us to sing? The demonstrators were all Nantucket natives or currently live on the island. So, just big liberals. Nantucket is an exclusive vacation getaway for rich tourists. Like that's what it's there for. But the protests on Friday indicate that the island residents are pushing back on their island and community being used for safe haven for politicians and wealthy elites. That was for a press release about the protest set. So just interrupting Christmas tree lighting. At least it was funny. Joe Biden did do a press conference after the hostages were released before he was heckled by protesters while shopping in Nantucket. It's like his whole weekend in Nantucket, he's going to need another vacation from because he's heckled at Christmas tree lightings. He's heckled walking around shopping. And like right after he gave this press conference about the hostages being released, they were heckled while trying to shop. This is Joe Biden talking about the people that were released and who remains missing.
2 American women and 1 4-year-old child, Abigail, who remains among those missing. We also will not stop until we get these hostages brought home.
Well, they were brought home, and that is good news. And I'm very, very happy about that 4-year-old. That to me is one of the best stories that we could cover today. The 4-year-old coming home, Abigail Elon. He was asked about the conditions of other American citizens still being held by Hamas in Gaza.
And of the 10 Americans that are unaccounted for, do you know all of their conditions? Are they all alive?
We don't know all the conditions.
Oh. Do you know their conditions? We don't. We don't know. We have no idea. He's not going to know everything. This is like one of those weird ones where like I want to roast Joe Biden, but at the same time, I feel like give him a little credit where credit is due. A 4-year-old is away from her captors. Like she has been released as a hostage, and I think we can give him a little bit of credit for that. It's a smidge. It's probably more Antony Blinken, right? It was probably the people behind the curtain. But you know what? To do that over a holiday weekend, we know how much Joe Biden loves vacation. To get this stuff done, this is good. More on the way. I do want to talk about, the lead up to 2024. I also want to talk about what's going on in Ireland, and we'll do that on the way. It is 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
U.S. Navy to the rescue. Israel-Hamas war. There's talk of extending the ceasefire. School vouchers, expansion in Tennessee, and at least one head is rolling after the Titans picked up their fourth win of the season. These stories and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Were you nodding there because of the sports take from Ken Weaver, Mac?
I was.
Mac got this smile, Ken, and he started nodding. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Get inside joke Chris isn't in on.
I don't know. But Mac was like, yep, sounds about right. All right. So stay tuned for that.
You'll find out at 9:30, Brother Chris.
All right, I'm hype. It is 9:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. One of the craziest stories as we were heading into the holiday weekend was that Rainbow Bridge explosion. People thought it was a terrorist attack. Many people were jumping to say, see, this is what happens when we don't have border security. Well, it turns out it wasn't a terrorist attack. And the victims of that crash have now been identified. Did you see the video of what happened with the car just launching into the air?
Wow.
That was amazing.
That was insane.
Insane. Just don't go full Die Hard until Christmas. It's like, I mean, I feel bad for these people, but geez, I'm so happy it wasn't a terrorist attack. But the two victims who died on Wednesday in a deadly explosion were a married couple from Grand Island, New York. Apparently, they had gone, they were heading to a Kiss concert.
Wow.
And they stopped at a casino on the way back, and then apparently the crash happened. The couple's names were released Friday morning once their family members were notified. There's no additional details about the couple being provided, and the couple's relatives did not respond to requests for comments on Friday. Grand Island, where the couple lived, is less than 10 miles from that Rainbow Bridge. So, you know, they're there all the time. They come through. It would be easy to see them coming back and forth. But again, that investigators believe the pair were headed to a Kiss concert Wednesday night. The concert was canceled because of Paul Stanley being sick with the flu. So then they were headed back. They stopped at a casino for a matter of minutes shortly before this crash occurred. And the police say the crash is still under investigation, but have determined that there were no explosives or a connection to terrorism, which is great news. Because, I mean, at first, everybody's saying, oh, this is a vehicle IED, an improvised exploding device in a vehicle. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, and I thought it was going to be absolute chaos if it was a terrorist attack. I mean, following that crash, they suspended all cross-border travel at the Rainbow Bridge until 6:30 the following day. And at one point, if I recall correctly, I think they were starting to cancel flights. They were like, you know, really holding on to see what the latest on was for this incident. And it turns out it was just bad luck, just a terrible story, and terrible anytime people lose family members before the holidays. That, you know, our hearts go out to the victims. And at the same time, very happy that it wasn't a terrorist attack. Very happy. But it should be a wake-up call to everybody that is in those sectors. You know, be on the lookout, you know, keep your eyes peeled, keep your head on a swivel, because this stuff is going to happen. And it's more of an indictment when everybody jumps into the fray and says it was a terrorist attack, it was a terrorist attack. It's more of an indictment on our border policies and weakness and ineptitude from our federal government, that immediately we're like, oh, yeah, it's got to be a terrorist attack. What else could it be? Because nothing from the White House shows strength. Right now, it's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver with the latest headlines.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Tell you when it's going to rain next during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now, the White House says it's looking into whom exactly fired those missiles toward a U.S. Navy destroyer after it rescued a commercial cargo ship from pirates in the Gulf of Aden overnight. Israel-Hamas war. Hamas calling for an extension of the ceasefire that ends after today. The White House and the Israeli cabinet seem to be on board. Right now in Tennessee, Majority Leader Jack Johnson says he will sponsor Governor Lee's school voucher expansion bill and believes it will pass in one form or another. Lee is to make a formal announcement tomorrow. And New York Congressman George Santos says he knows he's going to be expelled from the House when a vote is called, perhaps on Wednesday.
I'm not running for re-election, not because this was a damning report. I'm not running for re-election because I don't want to work with a bunch of hypocrites.
And turning to sports, yesterday's loss to the Titans, the final straw. The Panthers fired head coach Frank Reich this morning, just 11 games into his first season as coach. They lost to the Titans yesterday 17-10, making the Panthers 1-11. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. When we get to retirement, what do we want to do? We want to go and kick back, right? But we also want to take an income from our investment portfolios. And there are a lot of common myths that I hear about how do you take an income from an investment portfolio. One is that people will get into, this was really big a few years ago, really big, real estate investment trust. Now, real estate gets rented and it kicks off an income, and then you have some kind of dividend that's paid, and because the REIT has to pay out most of the dividend, it's a great way to take income in retirement. But what happens, like what happened recently, when all of a sudden the properties go unrented? What happens to your income? Bye-bye, it's gone. Another thing that I see is this. People buy stocks or stock mutual funds that are dividend paying. And what we'll do is we'll live off the dividends. Well, what is the dividend? It's part of the earnings of the company. So you got the earnings of the company, right? And then what happens is the company may pay out some of the dividend, and they call that a dividend when they pay it out, or they may retain some of it, and it's called retained earnings. Well, the problem is this. What if the company's earnings go down? Just like the real estate investment trust up here, what if the earnings go down? What happens to your dividend? It goes away. All of a sudden, it's bye-bye to your retirement income. So what do we want to do? We want to diversify way better. If you look at the academic research on investing and how to take income from a portfolio, quite often what it is saying, okay, I'm going to have some money in various asset classes. Large companies, small companies, value companies, growth companies, international companies, short-term bonds and intermediate bonds, and so on and so forth. And what I do is I look at these different areas of the market, and they have a historic return. And what happens if the portfolio does this area of the market does better than this one? Well, in that particular year, I'm going to take income from this part of the portfolio. Then the next year, maybe this area does better than everything else. I'll take income from there. So what I'm doing is diversifying, which is an age-old concept. I mean, good grief, Nobel Prize winning concept of investing. And I actually apply it to taking income from a portfolio. So why is it that we often see this kind of stuff? It's because of the fees and the commissions and all of the incentives to sell you things that maybe aren't in your best interest. And a lot of advisors, you look at it, they aren't held to a fiduciary standard. In other words, they don't have to keep your best interest first. Paul Winkler, Inc., we hold ourselves voluntarily to that standard, and we actually disclose it in our disclosure brochures. So if you want to know more about what we do and learn more and educate along the way, go to paulwinkler.com. Set up a free 15-minute phone call so that you can learn more, become an educated investor. First step is easy. paulwinkler.com, free 15-minute phone call, and get started ASAP, because you can't afford to wait. You've got to make sure you get this right. You don't get a second shot.
Would you like to see the United States doing more to pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu to take more steps to reduce civilian casualties?
Yes, well, first, President Biden has done that. And I also like to step back when I see some of the heat President Biden is taking and think, what would the alternative be? If Donald Trump was reelected or if Donald Trump was president at this time, can you imagine what the scenario would be in the Middle East?
Peace, maybe. Peace. 9:39 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That was Eric Swalwell hanging out with Jen Psaki over the weekend. And he says, oh, let's take a step back with all the heat Joe Biden's getting. Could you imagine what it would be like with Donald Trump? Oh, imagine things with Orange Man.
President Biden has done that. And I also like to step back when I see some of the heat President Biden is taking and think, what would the alternative be? If Donald Trump was reelected or if Donald Trump was president at this time, can you imagine what the scenario would be in the Middle East?
I don't know. Abraham Accords. Maybe not sending billions to Iran. Maybe we wouldn't be funding two sides of the same war. Oh, here's the thing. Maybe there would be no new wars like his first term. Eric Swalwell carrying water for President Biden once again. And he says, what would it be like? What would things be like with Trump instead of Biden? Remember, we have the adults back in town, and we're so grateful for that. Swalwell thinks that if Trump was in power, it would be World War III.
It would probably be the United States and Israel in a World War III-like scenario with Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. President Biden has not sent a single American into the conflict, but he is now pulling American hostages out of the conflict. We're supporting Israel. We're getting aid into the region. So far, we've held off other enemies of Israel and America. That's why President Biden was elected, and that's why I think he needs to be given, the room to negotiate, what is ultimately a resolution to this conflict.
Yes, World War III. It would be World War III, Trump. This is what they always say. Oh, it'd be World War III. If Trump gets elected, it'd be World War III, and then we had the only president to never start new wars. Oh, he's just going to give tax breaks to his buddies. Oh, and then we have the greatest economy for the middle class in decades. All the left does is projection. That's it. It'd be World War III. Could you imagine? No, I do. I don't think any of this would have happened if Trump was president. But what do I know? There's a story on dailymail.com about the double disapprovers. These are people who don't want Biden or Trump in 2024. This pollster, James Johnson, took a road trip through Georgia's swing country, and he said 2024 is shaping up to be the election no one wants. And he identified double disapprovers who said they don't like Biden or Trump. And there's some fascinating stuff here. There's one voter by the name of Nicholas who said he held his nose and voted for Joe Biden in 2020 just to dump Donald Trump out of power. I normally don't vote for Democratic candidates, he said. I knew he would not be the greatest president, but I felt that was the only way to remove Donald Trump, to get Donald Trump out. I would imagine that double disapprovers now, if it came down to Joe Biden and Donald Trump, would have to go Trump. I mean, if we're just comparing records now, Trump light years ahead. Eric Swalwell will like you to believe that Trump would have us in World War III, but that's the bill of goods that they sold us on the way to 2016. And we had no new wars under Trump. We had a record-breaking economy, lowest unemployment numbers ever. So I would imagine if you're a double disapprover, which I think is okay to be, nobody's going to like everybody. If you're a double disapprover this year, though, I don't think that this same guy, Nicholas, who held his nose and voted for Joe Biden in 2020 just to dump Trump out of power, would do the same thing again. Elections have consequences. But this story covers a bunch of double disapprovers, voters who don't want a rerun of the 2020 election and would rather have a fresh face. And they say that this is likely will decide who wins 2024. James Johnson is the pollster. He sets off on this trip across Georgia, one of the key swing states that will decide 2024, and he interviewed 7 voters in 2 counties that voted for Biden in 2020, which also backed the reelection of the state's Republican governor, Brian Kemp, last year. And 2024, the election nobody wants. But he goes through these focus group techniques to find these double disapprovers. He trawls voting records to find registered voters, and then he contacted about 5,000 people before screening them down to 7. It's fascinating stuff. Like this guy, Gabriel, 23, identifies as biracial, grew up with his African-American grandmother. His black father is in prison, and his mother is a drug addict. He voted for Trump in 2020 because he liked the idea that his business mindset would shake up vested interests in Washington, D.C., but says he's no longer sure. Trump is an a-hole, he said. He would say they messed up stuff. I wasn't 100% for him. Although this guy says, he probably would vote for Trump. He's a Vivek Ramaswamy guy this time. African Americans are tired of Joe Biden. You're seeing them leaving the Democrat Party in droves because people are now seeing that Democrats don't really care about you. Democrats don't help. Democrats don't care what you think. Democrats just want to win elections, and people are waking up. There's another a few other guys in this that are fascinating, but it's all these people who don't like either or. Frank says Trump was the best and the worst. Said, I thought it was on one hand one of the best presidencies of my lifetime because Trump somehow basically was able to do the economic turnaround. But on the other hand, one of the worst presidencies of my lifetime because at that point, everything seemed like there was a huge split because of the intense hatred against him. Is that Donald Trump's fault? No, I think that's the fault of the media. That's the fault of big tech. That's the fault of manipulation. And so this gentleman, Frank, who voted for Trump in 2020, he's now crossing his fingers, hoping that Trump does not get the nomination. He said, I wish there was somebody else there with a little bit less ego and a little bit smaller mouth, or a little bit more control over his mouth, that held to the same type of policies, but was a little bit more dignified, he said. This is what always crushes me. Like, he did the job well as president. But mean tweets? You're gonna hinge everything on mean tweets? Oh no. Eric, another double disapprover, says Biden has been a disaster as president. Eric is a professor at the local college here in Georgia where they did this double disapprover poll. He said he voted for Trump last time, but really does not want him to have to vote for him in 2024. That's not because of any great love for Biden. He says, I don't buy into conspiracy theories, or at least certainly try not to, but it's kind of hard to believe some things when he seems to not know what he's saying half the time, talking about Biden. So I think he's been a disaster as a president. Yeah, I think he has. But he says if it's a choice between Trump and Biden, then he would have to go with Trump. But he hopes that is not the final choice on the ballot. I think a lot of people that are, quote unquote, double disapprovers would vote for Trump this time around over Biden. I don't know how you don't. Have you seen the in-store prices on your groceries lately? Now, this guy, Eric, said he would be happier if Florida Governor Ron DeSantis could turn his campaign around and win the nomination. It's hard to turn around in those boots. It is. It makes things tough. I'm just saying. And in DeSantis's camp, I don't know if they're going to turn this thing around. Well, I don't think there's any chance they turn it around. But in DeSantis' camp, the head of the Ron DeSantis super PAC steps down. And this is following internal turmoil among the Florida governor's top allies and after 2 strategists nearly got into a brawl. The CEO of Never Back Down PAC is stepping down. The PAC is named Never Back Down. And he's stepping down.
Nice. Nice.
It's poetry. It really is. I'm going to start a pack called Never Back Down. I'm quitting Never Back Down.
I'm now quitting.
I am now backing down. So the head of the Never Back Down Super PAC has been pushing Ron DeSantis. He resigned shortly before Thanksgiving. His name, Chris Jankowski, is the CEO of the PAC that has been footing the bill for much of DeSantis's travel around key battleground states, and he stepped down Wednesday after a group of other DeSantis allies announced the creation of a separate PAC called Fight Right, Inc. About a week or two, we're going to hear a story. The CEO of Fight Right decides fighting is no longer an option.
Exactly.
Right. Cool. DeSantis' camp is in total free fall, and it's not getting any better anytime soon. I mean, can Ron just chill and drop out of the race? Can he? He's not. He is not gaining any ground on Donald Trump. He's just not. There's more on the road to 2024 that we'll cover on the way. Plus, anything you want to talk about, 615-737-9986. Phone lines, text lines open for you. And don't forget, you can take us wherever you go. We're on the TuneIn app. You can find our podcasts on Apple and Spotify. And you can always watch us on SuperTalk TV and listen anytime at 997WTN.com.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free. Me and mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee. Right at home in the woods of Tennessee. Right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
U.S. Navy chases down some pirates. Freedom for more Israel-Hamas war hostages. Tennessee school voucher expansion plans, and President Biden to announce supply chain initiatives today. All these stories and more at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I saw Tim Allen was trending on Twitter. Still calling it Twitter. And there's rumors flying that he could be starting a new show with Roseanne.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just rumors right now, but sign me up.
Yes.
I'd be down for that. Also, did you see Roseanne absolutely roast Joe Biden over the holiday weekend?
How did I miss this?
You didn't even see this?
Oh, gosh. I'm so excited.
All right. So what did Joe tweet? Joe tweeted out, "Deaths from fentanyl are an American tragedy that requires global action. I'm committed to do everything I can to control the crisis, from expanding prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery, to working with Chinese, Mexican, and Canadian partners to tackle this." So that was Biden's tweet on fentanyl. So Roseanne said, "Close the effing border then, dip bleep."
I mean, come on.
Bingo.
I mean, pretty funny stuff.
That's great.
It's classy stuff like that from Roseanne.
Yeah.
I love it. And her comment ended up successfully ratioing the president's post. And ratioing is when the responding comment gets more likes than the original post. So hers was more popular than Joe's comments on the border.
Ratioing the president is not good.
You ratioed the president.
You ratioed the president of the United States.
Oh, my gosh. Such a simple response. So effective. So effective. And then, everybody started chiming in, being like, "You get him, Roseanne." So I like that. Roseanne is actually going to be at America Fest in Phoenix as we head for Turning Point USA's America Fest. I'll be doing my show there live, and I think that Roseanne is going to be one of the ones to see. She's going to be hilarious. Very much looking forward to that. Also, very much looking forward to Ken Weaver's newscast and hearing about this school voucher program. I don't know if you guys know this, but with 4 kids, I've a vested interest in the school voucher program. So we'll get to those headlines right now with Ken Weaver's newscast on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. I don't see a chance for rain for at least the next, we'll tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. U.S. Navy goes on the attack. Martha Raddatz says a commercial cargo ship in the Gulf of Aden called for help, saying they were under attack. The USS Mason Navy destroyer then swooped in to help, forcing a small band of pirates to surrender.
Hours after that initial attack, 2 ballistic missiles were fired in the direction of the USS Mason from Yemen, where Iranian-backed Houthis operate. The missiles fell far short of the Mason, about 10 miles away, but U.S. ships in the region have been in the line of fire since the war in Gaza began, although this morning it is still unclear whether this attack on the commercial vessel, which is owned by a company led by an Israeli-born shipping magnate, is part of these larger threats coming from these Iranian-backed forces.
Israel-Hamas war, freedom for a third group of hostages. Susan McDaniel's sister-in-law, Adrian Aviva Siegel, was among those released by Hamas over the weekend. McDaniel's brother-in-law, Keith Siegel, a U.S. citizen, still being held.
There's so many other hostages we have to keep really hoping and pressing for them to be released as well.
Hamas freed 17 Sunday. 1 American woman remains captive. Israel released another 39 Palestinian prisoners in exchange. And now there is talk of extending the ceasefire by at least 1 more day. Right now in Tennessee, Majority Leader Jack Johnson says he will sponsor Governor Lee's school voucher expansion bill and believes it's going to pass in one form or another.
Fundamentally, we believe we have an obligation to provide a quality education to every kid, and that doesn't necessarily always mean attending a traditional public school.
Governor Lee to make a formal announcement tomorrow. We'll get more details. Then later today in our nation's capital, President Biden to launch what's called the White House Council on Supply Chain Resilience and announce 30 new actions aimed at strengthening American supply chains. The Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Commerce will collaborate to strengthen the semiconductor supply chain. The president will also broaden the authorities of the Department of Health and Human Services to alleviate drug shortages and invest in essential medicines in the U.S. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
.05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Hope you're having a fantastic day back to the grind as we recover from Thanksgiving break. Just go through the motions. We'll get through today together. We will. I promise. As you're working and you're grinding it out, just know that we're still so blessed. To be able to have jobs and grind and provide. Only 36% of voters think the American dream is still attainable. So if you think that the American dream is still attainable, you're light years ahead of a lot of people. The survey that the Daily Mail did is noting a significant drop from 2022. I think significant is an understatement. In 2022, 68% of Americans said they believed in the American dream. 68 to 36 in 1 year. We did it, Joe. We did it. Half of respondents said life in America is worse than it was 50 years ago. women and young adults were less confident in the American dream. Yeah, checks out. Can you fact check that? It checks out.
Looking into it.
All right, perfect. Women were the most uncertain of the American dream than men, with just 28% of female respondents saying they still believed they could get ahead with hard work compared to 45% of men who replied the same. Young adults also proved to be less confident about the ideal of advancement for hard work. 28% of voters under 50 said they still believed in the concept compared to 48% of voters 65 and older. The new numbers are more evidence that Americans are pessimistic about the state of the nation a year before presidential elections. So, don't ask anybody in Joe Biden's camp. Because they'll tell you things are great. In fact, Jared Bernstein, the economic advisor for Joe Biden, was on one of the talking head shows on Fox News over the weekend saying just that.
I think if the question needs to be not are those polls right or wrong. People are telling us how they feel. We have to look at two nuanced points. One, are we moving in a direction that will reach the American worker, the American consumer? Are real wages rising? Yes. Is the job market tight as it's ever been? Yes. Is inflation down 2/3 from its peak? Absolutely. Are prices coming down for gas, for airline tickets, for car rentals, for eggs, for groceries at the lowest inflation in 2 years? All of that is a yes. So we are moving in the right direction. We've got more work to do for it to reach average Americans who, by the way, are telling us through their consumer behavior that they're feeling pretty good about their own financial conditions.
Oh, yeah, we're feeling pretty good paying these extra prices on flights and gas. And, they always tout prices are coming down. Prices are still higher than when you took office. So, congrats. You're not failing as much as you were. Nailed it. Way to go. Way to go. But they'll look at you and tell you everything in the economy is fine. It's unreal. And the Biden administration swears that this is good news to tell on the economy because they're reducing these inflation prices. They're bringing prices down. The president himself loves to tout Bidenomics. It started as an insult, but it's working.
What does it say? The Wall Street and the New York Times?
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. They weren't being nice when they called it Bidenomics, but it's working. It's working.
It's working.
It's working. But listen, only 26% of Americans in this polling from North Star Opinion Research, only 26% said Biden's policies have helped. When asked what was causing them the most financial stress, some 82% of those surveyed said price increases. Oh, but prices are coming down. Oh, yeah, thanks. Still more expensive. Way more expensive. Have you done grocery shopping lately?
It's rough.
I saw a news story that said the average American family can do Thanksgiving for $60. What?
What?
Where?
We saw the Popeyes turkey was $70.
Unreal.
Wait. Guess you're not doing turkey if you're doing it for $60.
Well, turkey roll-ups.
The turkey roll-ups.
Yeah, you go full turkey roll-ups.
I saw a video of people doing Black Friday shopping. I can't remember if it was Walmart or one of the big stores, but you
Target.
it was Target. So you saw this.
Yes.
Yeah, with Black Friday sales. And the shows, $4.29, Black Friday sale. And you pull off that thing and it says sale, $4.29. So they're just putting up Black Friday numbers and acting like they're sales.
They're lying.
It's lying.
It's lying. It's lying. And Americans see right through it. The economy, big corporate stores, everybody's lying. They lie. They lie. Every group, according to this survey, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, list rising prices as by far the biggest economic threat and the biggest source of financial stress. Bad news for Biden. It is. And the more so considering how little he can do to reverse that perception as we get close to the election. I mean, think about how quick Thanksgiving and Christmas is upon us this year. I mean, it feels like just yesterday we had a spy balloon going over the United States,
Yeah.
It's come so quick. We're going to turn around. The election's going to be here. And I don't think Joe Biden is going to all of a sudden fix the country in a year. So where do they go? Where do they go if it's not Joe Biden? Well, there's a poll out. The top 2 alternative Democrat presidential candidates, if Joe can't go. This is a recent Harvard-Harris poll. Do you want to know? Do you want to know who their top 2 are?
Oh man,
give me a guess.
Gavin Newsom,
not top 2.
Is he? I mean, would he even be ranked? Oh gosh, I don't know.
He came in at number 4.
Okay, so he's Manchin.
Manchin was not on the list, unless you want to count him as someone else. I guess. All right, yeah, Manchin's someone else.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
So we could put Manchin at like, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Kennedy?
Nope.
They don't count him?
Unless we want to do someone else. He also came in at 7.
Wow. Okay, who?
So I don't know who the hell they asked, to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay, fair enough.
Because one of the things that scared me the most is like, if Joe's out, then we're going to have to deal with a real contender. But according to this Harvard-Harris poll about who the top candidate would be if it's not Joe Biden, I don't think we have to worry too much. Their top candidates both perform in pantsuits. Kamala Harris is their number 1 option with 24%. And Hillary Clinton is the number 2.
Oh, I should have guessed that.
It's her turn.
Yep.
It's her turn.
Oh. Surprised she's not number 1, to be honest.
I don't know.
Kamala?
Kamala?
I mean, I have Biden ahead of her.
I feel like Biden is light years ahead of her. Yeah. Like as far ahead as Trump was of Pence, Biden is further ahead of Kamala. Yeah. You know? This poll from Harvard-Harris also found that a majority of Democrats say Biden should not run for re-election. 59% said should not run, 41% said should run. Among independents, it was even greater of a majority opposing a Biden re-election campaign. 66% said that he should not run, 34% said that he should. The chances of Biden deciding not to run for president, slim. It's slim. Candidates seeking election must file paperwork before state deadlines and build a campaign apparatus. But because Biden intends to run for re-election, it appears dropping out now would hurt the Democrat Party. And it's always, vote blue no matter who. But the poll showed voters doubt Biden's fitness for office. Only 42% believe he's mentally fit. 58% have doubts about his actual fitness. And 2 in 3 voters say that Joe Biden is too old to be president. And this was almost 3,000 voters sampled between November 15th and 16th without a specified margin of error. So this is the Kamala and Hillary. They're the top ones, apparently. I don't know how that helps the Democrat Party. Like where your head went to Gavin Newsom, I feel like that would help the Democrat Party.
Yeah, I mean, it's a low bar, but more than
it's a low
Kamala.
bar.
I mean,
the bar is low, my friends. The bar is low. Unreal. And then on the flip side of the coin, Trump is in South Carolina. He absolutely owns Nikki Haley's alma mater. He attended the Gamecocks college football game. Crowd went bananas, absolute bananas. They love the man. Nobody chanted at him, accusing him of genocide or anything like that, like Joe Biden dealt with in Nantucket. And then after the game, we're seeing Trump gaining 30 GOP endorsements in South Carolina. So Nikki Haley, hang it up. This is Saturday. After the campaign announced he received 30 new endorsements from leaders in the South Carolina Republican Party, including six state legislators who previously endorsed former candidate Tim Scott. According to a press release from the Trump's team, they're saying Trump now has over 80 current and former Republican officials endorsing his campaign in South Carolina, and that is more than any other GOP candidate, including former state governor Nikki Haley. So can Nikki Haley hang it up? I feel like a lot of these Republicans just need to stop. I think they should. However, one Republican candidate got a heck of an endorsement. Heck of an endorsement. This could be the biggest endorsement of young Vivek Ramaswamy's career.
Who do you like in the Republican field?
Anybody. I'd be happy to support virtually any one of the Republicans. Maybe not Vivek, but the others that are running would be acceptable to me, and I'd be happy to vote for them. I'd be happy to vote for a number of the Democrats too. I mean, would be an upgrade from, in my opinion, from Donald Trump and perhaps also from Joe Biden. Look, I like President Biden. I find him a very charming, engaging person. There's some places I agree with him, but most places I disagree with him. I think he's made all sorts of terrible mistakes.
So that was I call it an endorsement from Mitt Romney for Vivek Ramaswamy when he says, I can't support Vivek. I would turn to support a number of Democrats before him. Hell of an endorsement.
It's the one thing you needed to hear.
That's it. All right.
He also purposefully said his name completely bass-ackwards there. I don't know what he was saying.
Did he? Did he say bass-ackwards?
He said something weird.
Who do you like in the Republican field?
Anybody.
Anyone with a pulse.
I'd be happy to support virtually any one of the Republicans. Maybe not Vivek, but
Vivek? Dude, what is
Bro.
That's just shade. He knows.
He knew.
He knows.
He knew exactly what he was doing.
It's about Vivek.
It's except Vivek. It's so slimy. Mitt Romney. Unbelievable. I missed that the first time. Good catch. Good catch, Matt. It's like Donna Brazile was on Real Time with Bill Maher. And she kind of had the same thing where she was like, Vivek, it's Vivek. She's like, I don't care how he pronounces his name. He needs to go home. And Bill Maher's like, that's kind of racist. She's like, whatever, Bill. It's like, okay.
Bill's like, okay, that's not great.
But even Bill Maher's like, could you imagine a Republican saying that about Vivek Ramaswamy? It would be, people would call him racist immediately, super fast. He would be the most racist candidate. This is Donna Brazile just going full racism on Vivek Ramaswamy.
And Vivek needs to just shut the hell up and go home. I'm tired of it.
We all hate Vivek. Okay. It's
Adam Kinzinger is sitting next to her, by the way, and he increasingly gets uncomfortable in this conversation.
It's Vivek.
Vivek. Well, whatever.
Not that I have,
Vivek.
Whatever. Would you say that about other
Donna,
ethnic?
I'm Donna. Vivek. Is it Vivek Ramaswamy? Ramaswamy?
Ramaswamy.
Thank you so much. I learn so much when I come on this show.
I know.
Vivek?
Vivek
needs to go home.
I agree.
He runs it.
I just feel like there's something wrong with everybody refusing to learn to say his name.
Vivek.
I just feel there's a little racism there. There's just a little. Okay.
Vivek, I'll say it.
Okay, all right.
Oh, as soon as he goes, it's a little racist. Adam Kinzinger goes, Vivek. I'll say it. I don't want to lose my CNN gig. Vivek.
Vivek.
But Donna Brazile, go home. Go home. So those are two big endorsements for Vivek Ramaswamy. Donna Brazile and Mitt Romney. Is there a bigger, have we seen a bigger endorsement so far? Is the non-endorsement better than an actual endorsement? I think so. Especially when it's somebody like Mitt Romney or Donna Brazile. That means a lot more to me. Holds a lot more weight. It does. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the non-endorsements. If he could get Dick Cheney to say that he has no place near a White House, I'd be like, all right, cool. All right, this is really, he's really racking up these endorsements. Can we get anybody else? It's 10:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Don't forget, you can take us wherever you go with the TuneIn app. You can stream WTN literally wherever. My dad streams in New Hampshire. We have listeners that stream in Wisconsin and South Carolina all day. We get texts from you guys, and it's because you take us everywhere with the TuneIn app. So thank you for that. And you can watch us anywhere on Super Talk TV, on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. We're everywhere. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. Oh my gosh, this morning, if you don't have your heater running at full strength, you noticed it this morning. It was chilly. And if it's not working the way it should, there's only one guy that you can call, and I swear you can trust him and his crew. It's Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling. It's so hard to find somebody you trust with these large home repairs, but that's why Jeff is a guy that I recommend. Efficient Heating and Cooling, they're a smaller company, but they bring big service and big results, and you can trust Jeff and his crew to do what's right every single time because they'll prove it every single time. Now, if you're running into issues with your heater and you're not sure if you need to repair it or replace it, talk to Jeff. Even if you've already gotten a second opinion from another company, talk to Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling because some of those other guys, they may just pressure you to replace your system because they make more money that way. It's a harsh truth, but that's the reality. With Jeff and his crew, if they can get you by for a couple more years by replacing a part and fixing that unit, they'll do that for you. But if you do need to replace the unit, they'll help you there too. And with Efficient, they offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net for more or call 615-784-4424.
Got some late breaking news regarding this truce between Israel and Hamas, and I'll break it to you coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 10:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Headlines from Weaver on the way. We were talking about Vivek Ramaswamy's non-endorsement endorsements, be it Donna Brazile and Mitt Romney. And we have Fox News on in the studio here. Not by choice. It was on when I got in. You know how I feel about Fox News. There's no...
Because we're Fox News, and we suck.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks, Brett. But they said 49 days until Iowa. And Karl Rove is on, and he's saying, this is do or die time for Ron DeSantis. Yeah, I think it's done. Good governor. Good governor. What?
No, that's it. That's great. That's great.
He's a good governor. He honestly, he is a good governor. Like he's always in the weeds. He's there right away whenever there's a hurricane or something's happening in Florida. He's fighting the good fight against Disney and doing all the things that he does. Good governor. I think we need him to stick to being governor. And I think that the voters in Iowa are going to say, yeah, that's probably your role. Chris Christie, also another guy looking forward to Iowa. He was on CNN over the weekend. Apparently, there's a New York Times article floating around where he says all of the anti-Semitism happening in the country is, you're not going to believe this, it's Donald Trump's fault.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, listen, only the most hardcore anti-Semites out there have their kids marry Jewish people and have Jewish grandkids. That's it. That's it. But CNN invited Chris Christie on for a chance to double down.
Governor, I want to ask about the spike in hate against Jews in the United States. You told the New York Times that you believe former President Donald Trump's, quote, intolerance for everybody has contributed to the surge in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. How so?
How so, sir? This is your moment to double down. Please explain to us why Orange Man bad, Chris.
Well, look, when you show intolerance towards everyone, which is what he does, you give permission as a leader for others to have their intolerance come out. And so, intolerance towards anyone encourages intolerance towards everyone. And that's exactly what's going on here.
Oh, all right. That's what's happening. Hey, remember that time that Donald Trump ran the country 3 years ago? We're still paying for that, all the intolerance that he promoted and that he shared. So, Orange Man bad is the move. But he goes on. There's a more long-winded explanation where he's also blaming college professors and the like.
And that's been going on for quite some time, not just with Donald Trump, but with university professors on some of our most elite campuses in this country, with university administrators and presidents who have been unwilling to stand up against anti-Semitism on their campuses, most particularly. And there should be no campus in this country where a Jewish student is afraid to leave their dorm, a Jewish student is afraid to go to their classes, a Jewish student is afraid to go to even have a meal in the dining hall. I mean, that is outrageous and it's wrong. I think governors in those individual states should be sending state police to make sure that they're protected on those campuses. And we need to have university presidents who are willing to stand up and be counted against hate. And that's exactly what's going on here. We saw this display also at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. These are folks who are ignorant. And when they talk about intifada, my guess is 2/3 of them don't even know what intifada is. And if they did, they'd be ashamed of themselves for calling for the elimination of the Jewish people around the world, which is what intifada is. And so, in the end, look, I think that there have been a lot of people who contributed to it, and I believe Donald Trump's intolerant language and his intolerant conduct gives others permission to act the same.
Oh, so in the end, even though it's wacky, crazy, liberal college professors putting these ideas into the kid's head, in the end, Orange Man bad. Thank you, Chris Christie. 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver in the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Israel-Hamas war, new developments. Both sides have agreed to extend their truce for 2 more days for the exchange of hostages. U.S. Navy to the rescue. National Security Advisor John Kirby says they're not sure who fired missiles on a destroyer chasing down pirates in the Gulf of Aden. trying to hijack a commercial tanker at the time.
We're obviously still sorting through the operational details. We're obviously glad that the ship wasn't damaged and no crew were hurt and the missiles fell far short. But again, we're looking into the details on this.
Yeah, those missiles landed 10 miles away. Right now in Tennessee, State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson telling WTN's Nashville's Morning News he is excited to sponsor Governor Lee's soon-to-be unveiled school voucher expansion plan. The governor plans a formal announcement tomorrow. And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. When we get to retirement, what do we want to do? We want to go and kick back, right? But we also want to take an income from our investment portfolios. And there are a lot of common myths that I hear about how do you take an income from an investment portfolio. One is that people will get into, this was really big a few years ago, really big, real estate investment trust. Now, real estate gets rented and it kicks off an income, and then you have some kind of dividend that's paid, and because the REIT has to pay out most of the dividend, it's a great way to take income in retirement. But what happens, like what happened recently, when all of a sudden the properties go unrented? What happens to your income? Bye-bye, it's gone. Another thing that I see is this: people buy stocks or stock mutual funds that are dividend paying, and what we'll do is we'll live off the dividends. Well, what is the dividend? It's part of the earnings of the company. So you got the earnings of the company, right? And then what happens is the company may pay out some of the dividend, and they call that a dividend when they pay it out, or they may retain some of it, and it's called retained earnings. Well, the problem is this: what if the company's earnings go down? Just like the real estate investment trust up here, what if the earnings go down? What happens to your dividend? It goes away. All of a sudden, it's bye-bye to your retirement income. So what do we want to do? We want to diversify way better. If you look at the academic research on investing and how to take income from a portfolio, quite often what it is saying, okay, I'm going to have some money in various asset classes. Large companies, small companies, value companies, growth companies, international companies, short-term bonds and intermediate bonds, and so on and so forth. And what I do is I look at these different areas of the market. They have a historic return. And what happens if the portfolio does this area of the market does better than this one? Well, in that particular year, I'm going to take income from this part of the portfolio. Then the next year, maybe this area does better than everything else. I'll take income from there. So what I'm doing is diversifying, which is an age-old concept. I mean, good grief, Nobel Prize winning concept of investing. And I actually apply it to taking income from a portfolio. So why is it that we often see this kind of stuff? It's because of the fees and the commissions and all of the incentives to sell you things that maybe aren't in your best interest. And a lot of advisors, you look at it, they aren't held to a fiduciary standard. In other words, they don't have to keep your best interest first. Paul Winkler, Inc., we hold ourselves voluntarily to that standard, and we actually disclose it in our disclosure brochures. So if you want to know more about what we do and learn more and educate along the way, go to paulwinkler.com. Set up a free 15-minute phone call so that you can learn more, become an educated investor. First step is easy. paulwinkler.com, free 15-minute phone call, and get started ASAP, because you can't afford to wait. You've got to make sure you get this right. You don't get a second shot.
.1036 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Have you seen what's happening in Ireland?
What's going on?
All right, so in a nutshell, Islamic radical rampages through Dublin, stabs kids.
Whoa.
Terrible.
Whoa.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's awful.
Then anti-immigrant protesters take to the street, rampage through central Dublin, setting fire to vehicles and looting stores. Crazy scenes. Crazy scenes. Police have blamed far-right agitators for starting the violence on Thursday, again, which began after 3 children and a number of people were attacked on Dublin's Parnell Square. 5-year-old girl was receiving emergency treatment after sustaining serious injuries in the stabbing. Police said in a statement Thursday, a 5-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl suffered less serious injuries, the statement said, adding that the boy had been discharged from the hospital. A teacher's aide in her 30s was also being treated for serious injuries, and a man in his 50s was arrested. Police said they were not looking for any other suspect. But people in Ireland are pissed. People in Ireland are pissed. And the police can blame the far-right agitators for the violence and all that, but I think the protesters are rightfully so blaming the police and the government for the policies that are letting this kind of stuff permeate. They say, oh, these protesters and rioters who are radicalized online. No, they've been radicalized by the fact that your government is letting in violent extremists. And we see this all over the place in the West. We do. You can look at London. You can look at France. You can look in America. The Islamic extremism is creeping in, and they'll call you Islamophobic if you stand against it. This immigrant that had stabbed women and children in Dublin, he was known to police previously. He was actually teed up to be deported. We've heard this story so many times before as well. The man suspected of stabbing 5 in Dublin city center on Thursday was arrested earlier this year for possession of a knife. The stabbings prompted riots and protests in Dublin after it was learned that the suspect is an Algerian immigrant and he had been in Ireland for about 10 years. In May, the man was arrested for possession of a knife and damage to a car. The case went to court, but he wasn't convicted. Daily Mail reports that this was due to a mental health report given to the court. Oh, weird. Don't we have something similar that happened here where a violent individual is arrested by police and then let go because he wasn't mentally fit to stand trial? Sounds eerily familiar to Gillian Ludwig and what we saw here in Nashville. Inactive government doing nothing about the crime in the streets. So this guy in Ireland was not convicted. He was brought to court, but he was not convicted due to a mental health report given to the court. Then in June, the Algerian man appeared before the district court in Dublin, charged with possessing a knife and criminal damage to a car after an incident in May. It's understood the evidence was heard, but the judge made no order. A no-order decision is usually made when the case involves serious mental health problems. Then, according to the Times, the suspect was the subject of a deportation order. And this man has a history of arrests in Ireland. Crazy. They say every proper procedure is being done, and they're going to have to wait until he is well enough physically before they interview him. And they're checking to see if he has any links to Islamic extremism. But at this moment in time, it's less of a possibility and more likely this was a mental health incident, is what they're reporting. Well, in Ireland, they're not having it. They're pissed. People are taking to the streets, and you know what? I get it. I get it. Conor McGregor, UFC fighter, MMA champion, very, very vocal about all of this. Very vocal about this. He's on Twitter all weekend long, talking about the protests, talking about what's happening with the violence and the rioting and the looting. And he says, he goes on and says, we can't be damaging property. We can't be destroying stuff in Ireland. We have to take care of Ireland businesses. He put a post out, said, people looting shops amidst the anger and rage Ireland has for the many failed policies of the government. Has this regime ever had one successful policy? Health services in shambles. This post from Conor McGregor, it's like you could take it and you could just superimpose it over America. Health service in shambles, abominable housing crisis, immigration wide open, climate hypocrisy rubbed in our face, danger on our streets at an all-time high. Can we point to any successes? We can lambaste these wasters looting and damaging our streets last night, and we will. But when it passes, the spotlight shines again firmly on the many, all failed policies of the Irish government. We are awaiting action. The families of those grieving are waiting. We will not forget. You will not brush this under the rug. We stand with those in mourning. Make change or make way. He also said on Twitter, we're at war. Said this is a war. And I agree with him. He also posted, you reap what you sow. Innocent children being stabbed in Ireland by a mentally deranged non-national in Dublin. Our chief of police, this is Conor McGregor on Twitter. Our chief of police had this to say on the riots and the aftermath. Not good enough. This is the chief of police in Ireland talking about the disgraceful scenes in Dublin after protesters were hitting the streets.
Tonight. Are you members? Are they injured? Are we seeing video footage of some of the members?
Well, I think it was disgraceful scenes in terms of major investment.
He calls it disgraceful scenes and claims that a hooligan faction driven by far-right ideology is behind the violence on the streets. Conor McGregor posted again, said innocent children ruthlessly stabbed by a mentally deranged non-national in Dublin. There is a grave danger among us in Ireland that should never have been here in the first place, and there has been zero action done to support the public in any way, shape, or form with this frightening act. Not good enough. Make change or make way. God bless those attacked today, we pray. So now, with Conor McGregor getting vocal on the internet, that has led to him being investigated for online hate speech. Classic. Remember, anything that can happen in Europe and Western countries, we are 10 years or less away from it here in America. And now, Conor McGregor is being investigated by Irish authorities for online hate speech. Because he was angry that children were being stabbed in Dublin. How dare you do hate speech? He's been outspoken about the impact of this mass migration is having in Ireland. He remarked, Ireland, we're at war, in relation to the chronic housing shortage that has made basic living unaffordable for many citizens. And he's saying, do not let Irish property be took over unannounced, evaporate said property. It's a war. Following the stabbing of these 3 children by a migrant in Dublin, Conor McGregor is rightfully upset. He's rightfully angry. And he's being investigated by the Irish government for online hate speech. Crazy. Crazy. It's very 1984, very Orwellian. I mean, the guy goes on the internet, repeatedly pushes back against illegal activity, repeatedly condemns looting. And you know what? He expresses the view of the Irish people on what's happening with the uncontrolled immigration. And now McGregor's posts are being assessed by the Irish police as part of an inquiry into the dissemination of online hate speech. He could end up in some real trouble for this. He really could. It's crazy. For what? For speaking out? For telling the truth? Weird. There's a Irish Green Party senator, and she's making a big old speech, and she says, we must restrict freedom of speech in order to make people feel safe about their gender identity and their religion, and we have to restrict these freedoms in the name of the common good. This is your government on rabid leftists. This is the real enemy within Ireland right here.
When you think about it, all law, all legislation is about the restriction of freedom. That's exactly what we're doing here, is we are restricting freedom, but we're doing it for the common good. You will see throughout our constitution, yes, you have rights, but they are restricted for the common good.
Oh, it's for the common good. Never mind. Everything they're doing must be on the up and up.
Everything needs to be balanced. And if your views on other people's identities go to make their lives unsafe, insecure, and cause them such deep discomfort that they cannot live in peace, then I believe that it is our job as legislators to restrict those freedoms for the common good.
Oh, we have to restrict it for the common good. We couldn't have anybody's feelings hurt. They may go on a stabbing spree if they feel uncomfortable in Ireland. What hot garbage coming out of Ireland. And to think Conor McGregor is going to be under investigation and in trouble for this. What? Oh, for just looking with his eyes and saying what he sees. Crazy. This is the same Irish government who the prime minister sparked anger after he said a freed child hostage from Hamas was found after she was lost. Ireland Prime Minister Leo Varadkar sparked equal measures of anger and dismay Saturday when he greeted the release of Israeli-Irish hostage Emily Hand, no relation, Irish hostage Emily Hand, by saying, "An innocent child who was lost has now been found." This is what they say. You can't say, hey, kids are getting stabbed in the streets of Ireland because of your mass migration policies. That's hate speech. But when a child is literally abducted by terrorists and held as hostage for over 50 days, the Prime Minister of Ireland says an innocent child who was lost has now been found. Crazy. They put a community notes on his tweet where he said, "This is a day of enormous joy and relief for Emily Hand and her family. An innocent child who was lost has now been found." They put a community notes. Emily Hand was kidnapped by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. The use of the term lost is inappropriate and fails to highlight that she was released as part of a hostage deal. Yeah. We would have never got those kind of community notes back in the day. Let's go to Frank and Bethpage real quick. He's got a comment on Ireland and Conor McGregor. What's up, Frank? You're on Super Talk.
Conor McGregor, he should just have a cage match with all legislation. Let's see who wins. It's terrible. It won't last long. Oh, I don't know. It is crazy. It is unreal what they're doing and saying he doesn't have a right to say anything. So in his own country. So.
It's the craziest thing, and it's not that he's saying lies, it's that he's saying truth.
All true.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't get in trouble for lying anymore. You only get in trouble for pointing out the truth.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a cage match. Just set it up.
Hey, I'm in. I'd be down with that. Thanks, Frank. Yeah. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
This is your government. This is what Western governments look like when they've been infiltrated by commies and rabid leftists. Normal things that people think are now hate speech. Wondering how could this migrant who should have been deported, who had been in trouble with the law before, possession of a knife, which is high crime in Ireland. Just wondering how this happened. That's hate speech. Acknowledging that. You're at war is hate speech. Weird. I don't know. I stand with Conor McGregor, and I stand with the people of Ireland. I hope that they get this stuff figured out. On the bright side, we are seeing more of these Western European governments go conservative. So hopefully this incident in Ireland, the terror attack, hopefully that will lead to a more conservative government in Ireland, one that the people can be proud of. Fingers crossed. It's 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free. Mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee, right at home in the woods of Tennessee, right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
New developments in the Israel-Hamas truce. We're waiting for more details of a plan to expand Tennessee's school voucher program. And inflation aside, Americans are expected to break a shopping record today. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Elon Musk weighing in on the Irish government's hate speech laws that they're trying to use to basically criminalize memes because of the pushback in Ireland over this stabbing attack. The stabbing attack against women and children allegedly committed by an Algerian immigrant in Ireland has led the prime minister of that nation to promise to enact new laws against hate speech. In response, Elon Musk shared a GIF of an arrest saying, "Language being proposed as law in Ireland means this could literally happen to you for having a meme on your phone." And the GIF is police storming a home. But they are going to be trying to pass new laws in the coming weeks in Ireland. They say it's to enable the police to make better use of CCTV and evidence they collect, as well as modernize our laws against incitement to hatred and hatred in general. Weird. You're not allowed to be upset when an illegal or a migrant comes into your country and stabs women and children. That's hateful. So luckily, Ireland is going to be putting some laws on the books to combat that. 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver standing by with the news.
Eleven o'clock on the dot this Monday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Israel-Hamas war. Both sides have agreed to extend the 4-day truce by 2 more days. Jordana Miller says it comes as the terms of the release of hostages hit a snag overnight.
The release of another 11 Israeli hostages by Hamas delayed by several hours due to discrepancies over who will be released. Israel protesting the list, which sources say would free children without their mothers. That's a violation of the ceasefire, and it's already happened once. A 12-year-old still waiting for her mother to be released. Qatar and Egypt, who are mediating, say they're hopeful a solution can be found.
Yeah, Hamas freed 17 hostages on Sunday, including 2 dual Israeli-American citizens. 1 American woman remains captive. Israel released another 39 Palestinian prisoners in exchange. Right now in Tennessee, State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson telling WTN's Nashville's Morning News expansion of the school voucher program to allow students to use tax dollars to attend private school is coming.
I'm very excited about this proposal and very excited about sponsoring it for the governor and getting into session here in just a couple of months.
Governor Lee set to make a formal announcement tomorrow. And in money news, Americans predicted to have spent at least $10 billion between Black Friday and yesterday. And now we have today.
Shoppers are predicted to spend $12 billion online today, up 5% from last year. With inflation on their minds, shoppers are pickier than ever in their hunt for deals. Analysts say overall, the biggest discounts, up to 35%, are on toys, electronics, and clothing. But Walmart is advertising discounts up to 80% off some items, while Amazon is promising new deals every 5 minutes throughout the day.
That's Allison Kosick reporting, and the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand for USS. With the rain coming at the end of this week, it's a perfect time to poke your head in your crawl space and see if you have any standing water. See if you have wet basement walls, maybe cracks in your basement floor. Maybe you're noticing your foundation has some cracks around it. Maybe your steps are sinking. If you see any of those issues, the guys to call are United Structural Systems. They've been in Middle Tennessee fixing these problems since 1994, and they have 25,000 satisfied customers to back them up. And if you're running into any of these issues with your crawl space, you need it encapsulated. If you need a sinkhole repaired, if you need basement wall realignment, structural repair, the guys at USS can do it for you. And again, they've been doing it since 1994. They're not going anywhere. And when you work with a new guy in town, you have no guarantee that they'll still be around if you ever have a warranty issue. Well, that is not something you have to worry about with USS. In fact, the warranty they provide stays with the home. It doesn't leave when you do. So these guys are proud of their work. They stand by it, and it's easy to see why they have 25,000 satisfied customers. They're not a franchise, and they'll make a custom solution to meet your needs. Plus, you don't pay until the work is done, and you are satisfied. So if you've noticed water in your crawl space, wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floor, that's your house trying to tell you something, give USS a call, and they'll come take a look at it. 615-488-7855, 615-488-7855, or online, USSTN.com. 11:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. So have you heard the latest on the border? We were talking about thought crimes and what's happening in Ireland. And I feel like this is a perfect segue into this story. We have thought crimes that can happen on our own borders. Scary, I know. Luckily, Biden's Department of Homeland Security they're doing something about this thought crime problem that we have. In fact, Biden's DHS is now requiring sorry, I was trying to be serious. They're requiring border agents to use the preferred pronouns of illegal immigrants. Yep. That's their new strategy.
What a ridiculous clown show.
I know. In a memo released earlier this week, obtained by the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project, it shows that the agency has demanded that border agents comply with preferred pronouns of illegal immigrants. The memo goes so far that border agents are prevented by DHS from assuming the gender of an illegal immigrant and must use gender-neutral terminology until they ascertain the person's preferred pronouns. Yep. It's your tax dollars. We don't want to offend the Latinx. The memo, called the Guide to Facilitating Effective Communication with Individuals Who Identify as LGBTQ+, is to give guidance to all Customs and Border Patrol employees who interact with members of the public to help facilitate effective communication with the diverse public we serve, including individuals who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, intersex, non-binary, and gender non-conforming. What a list. I didn't know that there was that queer or questioning was a category. The guidance on the memo says that it should be used by all CBP employees who encounter members of the public in the course of their job duties, including but not limited to law enforcement, trade, human resources, public liaisons, and others. The memo then advises readers that language contained therein may not be complete. Yeah, it's ever evolving. They're always adding letters to the alphabet soup. Some LGBTQI plus individuals, they say, may define these terms differently, and meanings of the terms may change over time. So you gotta do your own research too. Gotta be up to date. The memo instructs border agents to ask the individual their preferred pronoun. Do you imagine that? Sir, we just caught you sneaking across the border. what is your preferred pronouns? They just look at you and go, "K." Okay. Examples are given on how to ask these questions to illegal immigrants. Thank goodness for the examples, because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Examples such as, "I would like to be respectful. What name and pronoun would you like me to use when addressing you?" It's a good tip. Border agents are told not to ask, "What are you?" but rather to say, "Can you please confirm your pronouns or gender identity?" Non-gender specific terminology should be used until the appropriate terms are ascertained. Pretty good stuff, I guess. You know, I mean, we're being overrun with illegal immigrants, so let's at least get their pronouns right. DHS also is informing border agents that they are not to question a person's asserted gender identity, only to confirm it and use the right words. Do not, begins a section of don'ts. Do not question the authenticity of a person who tells you that he, she, or they identify as LGBTQI+. Biden and his administration are absolutely obsessed with pronouns and gender identity, so this is no excuse. No exception, sorry. Crazy. Because the border's not enough of a mess, right? Let's get their pronouns right. That's important stuff. Mind you, in Tucson, their border patrol has had to pause social media accounts. They're pausing them until further notice after 15,300 cross over that Tucson border sector in 1 week. So this is yesterday in Tucson, Arizona sector border patrol social media accounts were paused as the organization deals with massive surges in illegal immigrants coming across the southern border in its sector. In a statement on Twitter, the chief patrol agent of the U.S. Border Patrol's Tucson sector, John R. Maudlin, said, in light of the ongoing migration surge, all Tucson sector border patrol social media accounts will be paused until further notice. We appreciate your understanding, they said. Crazy. Now, what do they post? Well, they usually just post what they get. So in a post on Friday, the Border Patrol Tucson sector revealed that they had 15,300 apprehensions, 177 pounds of fentanyl recovered, 78 federal criminal cases, 17 rescues, 14 human smuggling events, and 3 narcotic events, which Bill Malusian of Fox noted was the highest ever weekly total. So are they making them pause their social media accounts because they're just too overwhelmed? Or are they making them pause their social media accounts because what they're posting makes the border look even worse than we know it is? I mean, Bill Malusian at Fox says, these accounts post valuable info and data. And he said, regardless of the reasoning behind this, it's a bad look. Essentially, the border crisis in the sector is so bad that they're going to cut off all communication and transparency with the public. Oh, well, hey, you don't have to be transparent with the public. Don't worry about it. Why would anybody be transparent with the public? In a press release on Wednesday, the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Arizona announced that it was going to continue its efforts to enhance consequence for unlawful border crossers in the Tucson sector. Yeah, I mean, we'll wait, and if it happens, we'll applaud them. I don't think that anything is, punishments are going to get worse. Doubt it. Meanwhile, in Texas, the border is just as trash over there as it is in Arizona. 21 migrant sex offenders busted in one Texas border sector in 7 weeks. So 3 a week, sex offenders. Del Rio Sector Border Patrol agents arrested 21 criminal aliens with prior convictions for sex offenses. Many of these offenses include sex crimes against children. Del Rio Sector Acting Chief Patrol Agent Juan Burnell posted the mugshots of the 21 criminal aliens arrested since October 1st, with histories of sex-related convictions. The sex offenders were arrested after illegally crossing the border between ports of entries. All migrants arrested undergo a biometric background check designed to stop them from re-entering the United States. And due to the hard work and dedication of their agents, these guys were not able to enter our country, which is great. That's awesome. I'm glad that they caught these 21 convicted sex offenders attempting to enter the country illegally. I think awesome. How many didn't they catch? How many got away? Seriously, that's the question we need to ask. No, we caught 21. So, all right. How many got away? How many? That's what I want to know. I doubt we're ever going to get the answers for that. But the border is crazy. So Tucson Border Patrol pausing their social media, probably because they don't want to let you know what's being caught at the border. But also in Arizona, the Arizona sector migrant surge is forcing Border Patrol to cancel field patrols. According to a source within Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol agents in the Tucson sector have been exclusively relegated to processing and caring for the wave of migrants crossing into the sector in recent days. Facing overcrowding at migrant processing facilities in the sector, the source says most non-essential details have been eliminated to redirect all Border Patrol agents to the task of accommodating the overwhelming number of migrants in custody. No more field patrols, no more social media, no more letting people know what is being found as it's crossing the border. All those guys are off. No more field patrols. Unbelievable. The source says that Border Patrol agents who are detailed away from the field to perform administrative duties, such as public affairs and community outreach duties, have been redirected to focus on migrant transport and processing tasks. As reported by Breitbart, Texas, this sector recorded nearly 58,000 migrant apprehensions in 28 days. In the last week, their social media account, before they stopped posting, had 15,000 migrants arrested, more than 2,000 per day. According to the source, more than 5,000 illegal aliens are being detained at facilities within the Tucson Border Patrol sector, with hundreds of others staged at field rally points awaiting transport to the area processing centers. The migrant surge near Lukeville, Arizona, involves migrants from across the globe crossing in single migrant group sizes of more than 500 in recent days. The migrant groups consist of nationals from Pakistan, Iran, China, and a host of North African nations, and they're not sending their best. The source says that interviewing these illegal aliens who do not speak Spanish or English has slowed the process down and is contributing to the backlog of detainees in the sector. Breitbart, Texas visited the sector in September and observed large migrant groups crossing into the Organ Pipe National Monument area by the hundreds. The groups marched from the border fence to a rally point more than a mile away, and then they surrender to awaiting Border Patrol agents. Then the illegal aliens await transportation to nearby facilities for processing. But most of those surrendering to the Border Patrol are then released. All right, we'll see at your court date. Feels good, right? No more field patrols, no more social media, all administrative duties, so that way we can release these illegal aliens into our country. And where do they go when we release them into our country? Well, in San Diego, the airport is being described as overrun as 300 illegal aliens move in. Hundreds of illegal aliens have taken to sleeping at the San Diego airport for days after being processed by Border Patrol agents as they wait for their flights to leave. Flights paid for by you and I, mind you. According to Fox 5, a local outlet out there, immigrants have historically been known to stay overnight the day before a flight, but recently have been showing up days in advance. Local organizations report the number of people sleeping there has recently increased significantly. They had it at over 300. One volunteer with the We All We Got aid organization. That's the name of it. We All We Got aid organization. Roni Ellis told the outlet that they have had to increase the number of aid packages they deliver to the airport. She said we would initially make about 50 sandwiches, 50 meals for people. But lately, we've realized that's not enough. Last week, she counted 308 people sleeping over. She says their biggest concern is all the children that are there and the vulnerable populations that are sleeping there. Yeah, I think the children should be a big concern, especially when you see the 21 migrant sex offenders busted in Texas border sector in 7 weeks. How many of these kids are being trafficked? How many of these kids are actually with their parents? I would imagine very little. I would imagine very few. But the airport is overrun in San Diego. Overrun. It's crazy. Crazy. All right. There's more on the border. I feel like we could spend a whole day talking about the craziness at the border. But I will end with this. Roseanne tweeting at Joe Biden. Joe Biden tweeted out that, deaths from fentanyl are an American tragedy that requires global action. He says he's committed to doing everything he can to control this crisis, from expanding prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery to working with Chinese, Mexican, Canadian partners to tackle this. Roseanne said, close the bleeping border, then dip bleep.
Bingo.
She ratioed him, too.
That's the best part.
Way more likes.
That's awesome.
Way more likes on the Roseanne tweet than on the Joe Biden tweet. In fact, Joe Biden had 12,000 likes, 4,000 retweets. Roseanne had 53,000 likes, 7,000. I mean, it was like, she dunked on him.
Come on, man.
It's the truth. 11:21. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
New developments in the Israel-Hamas war. A suspect in the weekend shooting of 3 Palestinian college students enters a plea. And we're getting closer to learning more details about a plan to expand the school vouchers program in Tennessee. All this and more coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, True Social, all of them at Chris Hand on air. You can find the station wherever you stream radio. We're on TuneIn. All the big ones. You can find our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on Super Talk TV, on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. We're everywhere. Can't get rid of us. And for that, we thank you. We were talking about the border. It's weird to see a headline where illegal immigrants are being arrested. Weird, right? But that happened in a sanctuary state, no less, in Illinois over the Thanksgiving holiday. 7 migrants were arrested. Migrants, illegal aliens, over the holiday for shoplifting. What? That's something you don't hear every day. An illegal alien in a sanctuary state was arrested for shoplifting. I wouldn't have even wanted that on my bingo card for 2023. But 7 border crossers, all from Venezuela, were arrested in the sanctuary state of Illinois over the Thanksgiving holiday for shoplifting from various stores. According to police, 2 Venezuelan border crossers entered a Hobby Lobby and loaded nearly $900 worth of Christmas items into their shopping carts before allegedly leaving the store without paying for them. 104 Christmas items they stole.
Jeez.
Why would you need that much Christmas?
Yeah.
Like, I love Christmas. We got our decorations out.
Same.
Like, 104 items is like, I understand the guy. Like, I almost understand the guy stealing power tools way more than 104 Christmas items.
Yeah.
What's the resale value on the Christmas items?
Yeah, for real.
It's a very small window that you're going to have to resell that. In a separate incident in Elmhurst, Illinois, there were 3 illegal aliens that were arrested and each charged with 1 count of felony burglary and 1 count of retail theft after they were shoplifting from Kohl's. So it's weird. It's weird that they're arresting people over shoplifting. This was $500. I didn't think we did that anymore.
Yeah, I thought that was okay.
Yeah, I thought that was totally cool. I thought it was like, as long as it's under $1,000, like, you can keep it. It's like all yours. Finders keepers is the new rule, I thought. And then there was a third incident where somebody was arrested with 1 count felony burglary, 1 count retail theft after shoplifting at a Macy's store. They stole $800 worth of clothing. And for some reason, they were caught filling a foil-lined bag with the items. Is that to not set off the alarm bells on the shoplifting? You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? The shoplifting?
Yeah.
What are those called?
The sensors?
The sensors?
Yeah.
Yeah, little things that stand by the door.
Yeah, I guess. Interesting.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I thought tinfoil was only for hats. I didn't know that we could line our shopping bags while we shoplift.
They're getting smarter.
They're getting smarter. Innovation. Modern problems require modern solutions. So yeah, people are getting arrested for shoplifting in Illinois. Who would have thought? Here's also a story from Illinois that won't surprise you. Out of Chicago, by Saturday night of Thanksgiving weekend, 25 people shot in Chicago.
So sad.
Dude.
That's terrible.
When are they going to get this under control? It has been a problem for so long. I honestly just think they just don't care. They just don't care. 25 people shot in Chicago over Thanksgiving weekend. That was by Saturday night. We probably upped those numbers. Crazy. Plus, you had those Macy's Thanksgiving Day protesters in New York gluing themselves to the to the pavement during the protest. A wild weekend, a wild weekend of Thanksgiving news. People being arrested in Illinois and shot in Chicago and gluing themselves to the streets of New York City. Can't make this stuff up. Seriously, I wish it was made up. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for Ken Weaver and the latest headlines on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Tell you when it's going to rain next in the full forecast in 2 minutes. Israel-Hamas war updates. Both sides have agreed to extend the truce by 2 more days to free more hostages and prisoners. And right now in Vermont, all right, no bail for the suspect in the Thanksgiving weekend shooting of 3 Palestinian college students in Vermont. 48-year-old Jason Eaton pleading not guilty to 3 counts of attempted murder. When he appeared in court for his arraignment via a video teleconference this morning, Eaton then ordered held without bail. Right now in Tennessee, Majority Leader Jack Johnson of the Senate says he'll sponsor Governor Lee's school voucher expansion bill and believes it will pass in one form or another. Governor Lee set to make a formal announcement tomorrow. And New York Congressman George Santos says he knows he's going to be expelled from the House when a vote is called, perhaps on Wednesday.
I'm not running for re-election, not because this was a damning report. I'm not running for re-election because I don't want to work with a bunch of hypocrites.
Yeah, this expulsion resolution following an ethics panel findings that Santos used campaign funds for personal expenses. Santos calls the report a political smear. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. When we get to retirement, what do we want to do? We want to go and kick back, right? But we also want to take an income from our investment portfolios. And there are a lot of common myths that I hear about how do you take an income from an investment portfolio. One is that people will get into, this was really big a few years ago, really big, real estate investment trust. Now, real estate gets rented and it kicks off an income, and then you have some kind of dividend that's paid, and because the REIT has to pay out most of the dividend, it's a great way to take income in retirement. But what happens, like what happened recently, when all of a sudden the properties go unrented? What happens to your income? Bye-bye, it's gone. Another thing that I see is this: people buy stocks or stock mutual funds that are dividend paying, and what we'll do is we'll live off the dividends. Well, what is the dividend? It's part of the earnings of the company. So you got the earnings of the company, right? And then what happens is the company may pay out some of the dividend, and they call that a dividend when they pay it out, or they may retain some of it, and it's called retained earnings. Well, the problem is this: what if the company's earnings go down? Just like the real estate investment trust up here, what if the earnings go down? What happens to your dividend? It goes away. All of a sudden, it's bye-bye to your retirement income. So what do we want to do? We want to diversify way better. If you look at the academic research on investing and how to take income from a portfolio, quite often what it is saying, okay, I'm going to have some money in various asset classes. Large companies, small companies, value companies, growth companies, international companies, short-term bonds and intermediate bonds, and so on and so forth. And what I do is I look at these different areas of the market, and they have a historic return. And what happens if the portfolio does this area of the market does better than this one? Well, in that particular year, I'm going to take income from this part of the portfolio. Then the next year, maybe this area does better than everything else. I'll take income from there. So what I'm doing is diversifying, which is an age-old concept. I mean, good grief, Nobel Prize winning concept of investing. And I actually apply it to taking income from a portfolio. So why is it that we often see this kind of stuff? It's because of the fees and the commissions and all of the incentives to sell you things that maybe aren't in your best interest. And a lot of advisors, you look at it, they aren't held to a fiduciary standard. In other words, they don't have to keep your best interest first. Paul Winkler, Inc., we hold ourselves voluntarily to that standard, and we actually disclose it in our disclosure brochures. So if you want to know more about what we do and learn more and educate along the way, go to paulwinkler.com. Set up a free 15-minute phone call so that you can learn more, become an educated investor. First step is easy. paulwinkler.com, free 15-minute phone call, and get started ASAP, because you can't afford to wait. You've got to make sure you get this right. You don't get a second shot.
11:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Hello, welcome into the show. Appreciate you being here. We were talking a minute ago about Chicago. 25 shot by Saturday night of Thanksgiving weekend. And Sean called in. He's in Lebanon now, but he's a former Chicago police officer joining the show. What's up, Sean? How are you?
Good, Chris. How you doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
So, yeah, every now and then you shall we say, get on the Chicago train about the violence, and rightfully so.
Occasionally.
They actually created a website that shows the numbers, but it's based on news sources and what have you, and it's always vastly different than what the police department would report, and it's a more accurate metrics because there's a reason the FBI doesn't use Chicago's crime stats in their annual report, because they know they're all numbers any way you want. Just brought up the site. There's 2,868 shooting victims in the city of Chicago this year.
Jeez.
591 killed.
That's chaos.
And that is, and I'll tell you, I retired after 27 years up there, and every holiday weekend, it sounds morbid, but we'd have the under-over. It's like, all right, how many are going to be shot? How many are going to be killed? And the year that I got asked to leave the detective division, we had 86 people shot over the 4th of July weekend, 16 dead. We had 10 officer-involved shootings, 5 with hits, 2 fatal. And then we had what we called our TRRs, our use of force reports. We had 78 plus just in a weekend, a 4-day weekend.
That's crazy.
And the numbers, and that's just part and parcel of a typical holiday weekend there. And it started years ago with certain prosecutors, certain state's attorneys or DAs, down here. You talk about shoplifting. We had our threshold, but then Kim Fox came in and said, nope, we're going to triple the threshold. Well, it's statutory. You can't. But she would. She wouldn't prosecute anything under a certain dollar value, and it just added to the chaos. And now that's where you get these wild things on Michigan Avenue, and stores are fleeing left, right, and center.
So why do you think that it doesn't get fixed in Chicago? We've known it's been a problem for it feels like decades, and nobody does anything. Do they just hate the residents of Chicago that much?
No, it's it kind of goes into a long thing. Rich Daley, Mayor Daley, Old Man Daley, he knew, for lack of a better description, the police were a necessary evil. He knew he had to support us in order to keep the city going in the direction that it needed to with its popularity and the tourism and everything. When young Rich Daley got in, he grew up with the police officers holding the door for him. We were glorified servants to him because, he grew up with his dad being the mayor. So there was no respect there or no appreciation for the job that we did. But, the minute a police officer was killed in the line of duty, he was on camera with crocodile tears and everything else. And it's only gotten worse with Rahm Emanuel being in there, then Lori Lightfoot, now Brandon Johnson. I despise Rich Daley for a multitude of reasons. Number one, what he did to our pension, what he did to our medical. But I would take Rich Daley back in a heartbeat versus the other 3 that I mentioned.
It's
the citizens of Chicago and Cook County will never learn because they will continually, contrary to popular belief, Illinois is considered a red state.
Yeah.
The problem that you have is the downstate population, everything under I-80 and south, is outnumbered by Cook County and the collar counties up north. So, the entire state can vote conservative or vote Republican or vote red, whatever you want to call it. Cook County alone will negate that.
That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Hey, I appreciate the call, Sean. Thanks so much for chiming in and adding your expertise and all that stuff. It's It is insane in Chicago. Insane. There's a couple other stories that I haven't been able to get to yet today that I do want to get to. One of them being Derek Chauvin stabbed in jail. Did you hear that over the weekend?
No.
So Derek Chauvin, obviously, George Floyd, he's the police officer.
Yep.
Stabbed in jail over the weekend. Do you know how his mom found out?
Oh, no.
She found out after hearing about it on the news. It's like, what a bad story. It's like when an athlete gets traded, he's like, I found out on Twitter. You know, I didn't.
Yeah.
Nobody called me to tell me.
No one told me.
Yeah. So the mom of Derek Chauvin says she's worried and scared after hearing about his prison stabbing. This is the mother of Derek Chauvin, former police officer who's convicted again for the death of George Floyd, which is garbage, and everybody knows it's garbage. George Floyd overdosed on fentanyl. So Chauvin is basically a political prisoner. If races were reversed and Chauvin had been a black man and George Floyd had been a white man, that it never would have been a story. It never would have been a story. But his poor mother finding out that Chauvin was stabbed at an Arizona federal prison on Friday afternoon. His mom's name is Carolyn Palenti. She told Alpha News that the prison didn't contact her and that she was worried and scared. She said, I have to stay strong for Derek as he does for me. There's no stronger love than a mother's love. We have attempted to contact the Bureau of Prisons regarding the media reports regarding Mr. Chauvin, and we have not heard back. That was her attorney. How the family members are finding out about this is just awful. Awful. It's awful. And in December 2021, Chauvin pleaded guilty to willfully depriving Mr. Floyd of his constitutional right to be free from the use of unreasonable force by a police officer. He was also charged with second-degree murder for the death of George Floyd, and while he was attempting to arrest him, and he's sentenced to 252 months in prison. And they transferred him from a Minnesota state prison to the Federal Correction Institution in Tucson for his own safety. Nailed it. It's working out. It's working out much safer now. Sad story. We'll keep you updated on anything that comes out of there. Another story I wanted to get to, the FBI and the CDC have been slammed for dropping the ball on the Chinese national running the illegal California biolab. Do you remember the biolab that was found in California?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, federal officials declined to pursue a meaningful investigation after being alerted about the illegal Chinese-owned lab with deadly pathogens. And they had all sorts of stuff in there. Just to go through the list, they had at least 20 high-risk infectious agents, including SARS-CoV-2, HIV, E. coli, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, the dengue virus, malaria, chlamydia, herpes, and Ebola. It was being run illegally. A U.S. House committee investigating the illegal Chinese-owned facility determined that the biolab had genetically engineered nearly 1,000 transgenic mice to catch and carry the COVID-19 virus. But a lot of people are wondering why the FBI and the CDC ignored warnings about the facility. Rep. Ashley Hinson, a Republican from Iowa, said in a recent interview, it reads like a movie script and a horror movie script when you detail how these things were missed. We want to know how he was able to obtain these pathogens, referencing Zhu, the man that was arrested. How is he able to get away with running a lab, getting millions of dollars sent to him from the Chinese Communist Party, and then obviously coming into our country and stealing American intellectual property? Now, if convicted, this man Zhu, who entered the U.S. illegally, and he was subject to a Canadian arrest warrant, you know what kind of time he's facing? 3 to 5 years in prison.
Oof.
That's it. That's it. You're running a biolab as an illegal Chinese citizen in America. A biolab where you have Ebola, herpes, chlamydia, malaria, dengue, SARS-CoV-2, HIV. You're facing 3 to 5 years in prison. That's hot garbage. Hot garbage. Crazy. The FBI and the CDC really dropped the ball here in terms of investigating not only this illegal lab, but now we wonder how many more labs like this exist in the country. Again, that was Rep. Ashley Hinson, a Republican from Iowa. How many labs like this exist in the country? So clearly, we have some work to do to make sure we're prepared because we know China is doing everything they can to constantly undermine us. Well, luckily, Joe just met with China a couple days ago. They had the powwow. We're friends again. So nothing to worry about. Did you hear the question mark on the end of that? Nothing to worry about?
Nothing to worry about?
Nothing to worry about. I mean, there should be more investigation here. There should. Oh, hold on real quick before you do that. Cut that music for 1 second. Sorry, I didn't want to sound like anybody else, but just for 1 second. Before we do our crossover break with Matt Murphy, did you hear the AI Trump country song?
Oh my gosh, I only heard a little bit of it. You played it during the Amigo.
So I wanted to play it one more time before the end of the day. All right. Because it's funny.
It is. Let's do it.
All right. Here's this was making the rounds at my Thanksgiving table where we were all giggling. I wonder if it made the rounds at your Thanksgiving celebration. If not, I have it for you now. A artificial intelligence Donald Trump country song.
Trump the Don, back at it again. This time in the countryside. Shout out Jason Aldean, Morgan Wallen, and Dana White. I could have just retired in peace. I could have been golfing with my niece. I could have been chilling on the beach. But I got too much love for the streets. Hey, let's make America great. For every religion and race. Yeah, men don't have a vagina. The radical left works for China. All I ever wanted for the USA was a good economy for your family. Protect the southern border, make a place that's safe for your kids to go outside and play. Look at San Francisco, take a look at LA. Look at New York City, man, it just ain't the same. We all know the radical left is to blame for weaponizing your religion and race. Nancy, tell me how that house is so fancy, but you only make $100K a year. How'd that happen? Your husband, Paul Cranston, in his panties just dancing with his boyfriend in your mansion. That actually happened. These politicians pretend that they care, but only look out for themselves, it ain't fair. The economy is not what it was, but I'll die trying to wake her back up. All I ever wanted for the USA was a good economy for your family. Protect the southern border, make a place that's safe for your kids.
That's the Donald Trump artificial intelligence country song. So Murphy popped in here, and he doesn't think it's funny.
Oh.
I thought it was funny.
I think it's great.
I don't know if this one is as good as the other ones.
Well, he's had some hits. Yeah, he's had some bangers.
Had a couple bangers.
It is catchy.
It's catchy. It's catchy. I like the part about Nancy and her fancy home.
Yeah.
How did you afford that?
Only making $100K.
Weird. All right, 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Checking in with Matt Murphy next. 11:56 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy joining me. What's up, dude?
Hello.
You have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. How about yourself?
I had a fantastic Thanksgiving.
Got in a fight with the turkey there?
I did.
I know that's not what you want to hear because you're probably like, well, nobody will notice the cut, and then first thing Murphy says. Of course, I'm not shaving anymore, so I don't have that fear.
Is it No Shave November?
Well, whatever.
Picking up steam late or something?
I'm lazy and I can't really grow a beard. I wish I could grow a beard like you.
You got a good beard.
I do not have a good. I got gaps. It's like rats on my face, but it's way yellow. I'm honestly considering doing the Just for Men.
Really?
No play for Mr. Gray. So, what do you think? No?
Let's get you an endorsement.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just stay.
A little brush in.
And the only time I brought this up to my wife, and the one thing she said was, "Do you want to be that guy?" And I was like, "Nah." I just kind of shuffled out of the room. It's like, no, I don't want to be that guy.
Do you know Hannah Faulkner is on the show occasionally? Her sister was in a play with my daughter.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so we bump in. We only talk on the air. Bump into each other at the play. And she goes, "Do you dye your hair, Mr. Chris?" And I was like, "What? No, I don't. Why do you ask?" She's like, "I'm pretty sure you might dye your hair." I don't.
I get accused when I grow the beard of dyeing the top part because the top part is still mostly black and the bottom is mostly gray. I was like, no, look, this is just,
The longer it gets for me, the more gray it will be.
This is proof that God has a sense of humor right here because he gave me a lumpy head. But I've often said that my hair is proof that God exists because he gave me such a lumpy head. He's like, I'm not, and he's a kind God because he's not going to give me a lumpy head and make me go bald. He'll give you kind of either. Have you noticed that guys that go bald, normally they got, like Mandis is a good example.
God won't waste your pain.
There you go. I mean, Mandis got a nice shiny dome. It's nice and round.
The curvature's there.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, Chris.
I didn't expect this to go this way. What do you got coming up on the show? Anything fun?
We've got Corey DeAngelis, who is a nationally renowned expert on the voucher system.
Oh, yeah.
Is going to come on to talk to us about the possibility of a voucher system in the state of Tennessee. I'm going to ask some questions from parents because I'm not one, so I want to know.
I'm in on vouchers.
Yeah, I mean,
Count me in.
I want to be in, but I'm going to learn today. So we'll do that.
All
Start
right.
noon.
That's on the way with Matt Murphy. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
From ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. Qatar's foreign